flow to the presidency. About 2 hours of media encounter with the president, taking a short break to sit. Tons of questions answered. We have highlights of that encounter that touched on the economy, porous borders, the Nigerian border closure, corruption, and running a family and friends government. Let's start with manifesto promises made to you Ghanaians. This week, policy think tank IMANI Africa scored the Akufo-Addo-led administration a weak, satisfactory 48% as far as its delivery on manifesto promises is concerned. Listen.
Well, so it means a number of things. That over the last 3 years, if you look at the litany of things that this government committed to doing prior to being elected, with that landslide victory in 2016, there's still a long way to go. If you look at what is left as against the time period that we have for the tenure of the Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo government to come to close. However, I think there are nuances to what the score means. Out of the 48.78%, there's a portion of that, which is about 27%, that relates to promises that have been completely undertaken. So those are promises that, for example, if it says we're going to set up the Office of Special Prosecutor, for instance, that office exists now. The complexities regarding that office's work, whether they've been able to deliver on their mandate or not, is a completely different conversation. I think we didn't aim to go into, those sorts of qualitative assessments of the quality of the investments or the quality of the delivery of promises. And so that nuance has got to be established. What it means is that then out of the 510 promises, there's only about 150 that the government has not touched at all. Again, you can understand that there's a 4-year term, that the 4 years are not over, so definitely there are going to be areas that they wouldn't touch. So those that are in excess of 300, there's a portion of that they have touched one way or the other. And so in those cases, what we try to do is to gauge the actions that have been undertaken on these promises and measure the extent to which these commitments can lead to the realization of the promises. So some of them are on the lower bounds of, say, 0.1, 0.2, others on the higher bounds of, say, 0.9 or 0.8. And we have adjusted those ones to a full completion state. And that's what adds up to the fully completed one and pushes up to about 48%. So again, if they are able to complete those and you weigh them against, the same method, clearly the numbers will change. So it all depends on what they are able to do within the next 12 months as far as the commitments or the promises are concerned.
Patrick Stevenson, the head of research for IMANI Africa, explaining their position. Well, the president disagrees with that assessment as well as what the Afrobarometer says. It's part of the questions he has been answering this afternoon when he met with a cross-section of selected media representatives. Listen.
I hope you followed what has happened in London last night. I'm talking about Afrobarometer projections and polls, etc. I'm not discouraged. I'm not discouraged at all. But because my attitude to polls has never changed. The only poll that matters is the poll on the 7th of December. That's the only poll that matters. I'm not saying that when people do polling, you then just rubbish it. No, that's not my view. You have to look at it, take it into account, analyze it, and see for yourself what is being said. But we know of situations, lots of people did not predict my being here. There were polls that went to say that I couldn't be here. I would never be here. I'm here. You then have to worry. You have to worry yourself about one touch, no touch, whatever. But no, I'm not discouraged. It's important for me. What is important is my program and the work that I'm carrying out, because I believe it is beneficial for the people of Ghana. And then when the time comes for the Ghanaian people to comment on it, I'm optimistic and go forward to say that I'm confident that it will be a good comment that they will make on it on the 7th of December next year. So I'm not discouraged by the Afrobarometer poll.
Well, that's actually the president speaking on the Afrobarometer. We'll get to the bit where he talks about the 72% that he assigns himself and his government, 24 points above what IMANI Africa says. Let's get on the line and speak to IMANI Africa's Patrick Stevenson. Patrick.
Hello there.
Yes, I happened to play the president speaking on the Afrobarometer instead, but I'm sure that you may have listened to the president say that he's scoring his own government 72%, which is about 24 points above what you scored him at 48 in terms of manifesto delivery. What do you make of that?
Well, I should say, first of all, that I mean, I was in another program, so I couldn't follow the entire conversation by the president. However, I'm privy to a lot of these conversations now that, you know, he scored the government or his own government for 72% on implementation of his policies. And I think what would be good would be to see the basis upon which the president or, you know, whatever officers are working on this for him come to that conclusion. Again, I can't hold, you know, him accountable. But the point that has got to be made is that I do recall when we put together our report, representatives from the Ministry of Monitoring and Evaluation.
Yeah. Right. Hello, Patrick. If you do hear me, let me interrupt briefly and play you that soundbite so it gives you a bit more information.
A bit more context.
Right.
That's fine.
Yeah, so hang on.
I disagree with the 48% assessment. I think it's a much higher assessment in terms of campaign promises that have been delivered and are being delivered. The figure that we're working with is a figure of 72%, not 48%, in terms of the promises that have been delivered and those that are in the course of being delivered. So we have a fundamental disagreement on the figures. I believe that there's enough information that can be assembled to show that our figure, our assessment is the accurate one. The size of government, I heed the calls. It's come from some quarters. I'm not quite sure that it is necessarily the call of everybody. But I believe that the work that this government has done, the output, would have been difficult with a smaller number.
So he goes on to talk about the numbers. But Patrick, back to you. You heard him say that he disagrees with your 48% and he thinks that he deserves 72% and he believes that their figures are more accurate.
Again, so listening to what the president said, I don't think the president is completely off from the reports that we have put out. I think what is happening is that people are interpreting the position of the president and the position that IMANI has taken in the report. Again, we had indicated in the report that the total number of promises that had been made by this particular government, there are 510 promises in all. Out of that, those that have been implemented fully to date were 140 promises. Those that were at different stages of implementation were 200 in total in all. Those 220 are not completed, they haven't been fully implemented, but they are different stages of implementation. So therefore, if you look at promises that have been completely implemented, and those that are at different stages of implementation. If you take 140 and add to 220 and strike that to the total of promises that were made, something around 70%. However, the point that the 48% seeks to achieve is that those that are at different stages of implementation, if we adjust them to a full stage of implementation and add that to what has actually been done fully, you have a total complete execution on promises of 48.78%. So I guess the president, if has done anything at all, has actually validated the position we hold. What I would have expected for those who were present at the conversation to have demanded from him was, for example, to say that he suggests that 72% have been implemented or at different stages of implementation. So those that are at different stages of implementation, if he's supposed to account for them as completed promises today, what will they stand at? And I think that's where the bone of contention has got to be answered. I'm not particularly sure that, you know, there's any calm here or there. The point is that if they get proper context of exactly what we have put across, so we are not saying anything different. But I should also say that in the course of, you know, the forth and back that we've had, you know, I think the Ministry of Evaluation itself that does a lot of evaluation government, you know, programs, and also the president currently admit, and they've admitted this publicly, that the programs that they are monitoring are usually the programs that are sitting at the office of president in the IPEC. So again, if you're not careful when you're operating from the office of president, you are likely going to misconstrue the complete implementation of, say, the IPEC programs to mean that all the promises that have been undertaken by the government have all been implemented. So I think that is important we interpret the position of the president. He hasn't said that the promises he has completed are 72. The point that I just said from the soundbite is that promises that have been completed and those that are different stages of implementation, or those that are in the process of implementing, is 72%.
But you had the word that he used at the beginning. He says, "I disagree with that assessment."
Well, he disagrees with the assessment. However, the submissions he's provided does not appear to suggest a disagreement.
That he disagrees.
My reading of that is that either the president himself misunderstood the 48.78% that had been accorded. I doubt the president has probably read the report. If he has read the report, that's fair enough. But the point that he disagrees with is absolute score 48.78%. But I don't think he understands the true context of that.
Of the 48%.
The details of the report. Because the details of the report will almost sort of agree or align with the conclusions they're arriving at. However, what they will not account for are the promises that have been absolutely completed. We're not talking about those that are different stages of implementation.
Very well. Thank you so much, Patrick. Patrick Stevenson is head of research with IMANI Africa. Let's move on.